13-year-old Gary Meager, who was going to live the biggest happiness of his life so far, in which he was going with his friends on a guided trip by two people, and all the people were very excited to explore the cave for the first time. But their happiness was not liked by the nature mother. Suddenly, a very big flood of water comes, and no one gets time to blink. And in front of Gary's eyes, all his friends were suddenly drowning in the water. And Gary felt that everyone has been killed and the next turn is his. This is a very big tragic story of Cliff Cave. Before moving forward, be careful. A school named St. Joseph, which was like a boon for young children, in which these school people used to get small children to explore very big things. And one day they announced that a group of 12 children is going to explore a very big cave. Gary's name is also mentioned in this. All the children were happy that they were going to explore the cave for the first time in their lives, but they did not know that such a tragedy would happen to them. And in the evening news, all these children will be named, and this day comes on July 23rd. All the boys were ready to explore this cave with excitement. Both the guides and the children had packed their food and drink in their bags. On top of that, God was also giving a signal not to go ahead. On one side, the wind was tearing the chest, and on the other side, the clouds were thundering with a lot of noise. No one cares much about this thing, and everyone moves ahead. Before reaching the cave, there is a very big slope on which a little water was going down at a very fast speed. All the people enjoy jumping in this water, but no one cares that this thing will become a big threat to them in the future. They still felt that they would easily tolerate a little rainwater. After trekking for 2 hours, these people reached the entrance of the cave. There was a lot of happiness and excitement on the faces of all the children, because today those people were going to do the work, after which a big fear was going to come out of their minds. Because by going inside the cave, those people were going to explore a lot of new things. But in the next few minutes, they were going to realize that this was going to be the biggest mistake of their lives. Without any fear, all the people enter the cave. As soon as they enter, everyone is shocked because the water inside was filled up to their knees, which they find very odd because the rain was very less. And all these people were thinking that how did so much water come inside the cave with a little rain? But as I told you before, that these people were waiting for this thing for many weeks. And after seeing such a small thing, these people do not want to go back by spoiling their excitement. And this was the second mistake of these people. And ignoring everything, these people go ahead inside the cave. As these children had dreamed, all those things were in front of their eyes today. And all these people were enjoying the beauty and vibes inside the cave, because there were a lot of tunnels inside the cave that all these children wanted to explore. And then the same thing happens, which was the most dangerous. Outside the cave, the speed of rain becomes faster, and inside the cave, the water level starts to rise very fast. And this was the first time when this group was feeling nervous, and they started to feel some danger ahead, because the water was increasing very fast. There was no time to run or think, and they had one last thing left. Survive. Along with this, both the counselors suddenly become active to somehow get the children out. But then they come to know of another big danger, that till now all these people had reached the middle of the cave, and in just a few seconds, this water comes to their chest level. Till now, as soon as these people think or blink, another big danger comes in front of them. Some boy's water had gone over his head, no one's feet stay on the ground, and all the people get disbalanced. But what did they know? That the main danger was yet to come. Those children try to somehow get out of the water, but they were floating on the water at this time. They didn't have anything to hold on to, and suddenly a very big wave of water comes. All the children's head and feet sink into the water, and the water was flowing inside through their nose and mouth. Everyone was having so much trouble breathing that everyone's faces were red, and in a few seconds this water fills up to their lungs. And a few seconds earlier, the children who were struggling suddenly turned into dead bodies. All the children's bodies were floating on the water, leaving the hope of living. And from this place, this story becomes more interesting, because one of these children, Gary Meager, was still alive. He somehow saved his life, but he had a few seconds left to escape death. Gary saw his friends dying after struggling a lot in front of his eyes. His eyes suddenly fall on the two floating counselors, whose head was on the roof above, and from a little place, they were breathing and screaming loudly. But for now, Gary could only do one thing: to hold that small stone and hang there to save his life. And at the same time, there is another incident in the cave, which was no less than a nightmare for a 13-year-old child. Through the stone, his friends' bodies can be seen floating near the hanging Gary. And seeing this, Gary's heartbeat started getting faster, and the anxiety was tearing his chest, because these were the same friends with whom he used to sit in the class and study or play in the ground. And seeing the bodies floating, he starts crying loudly. And apart from crying, he could not do anything else. No one had reached the other side to help him yet, and the water was getting faster and faster. Then he suddenly starts thinking how to save his life. And suddenly he feels that how many people had come inside the cave, and he is the only one of them who is still alive. And for so long, the authorities had been alerted, and a big rescue team was sent for the cave. And then we get a good news. Suddenly the rain stops, after which the rescue team thinks that somehow they will save everyone's life. But they still did not know about the environment inside the cave, because the cave had become like a lake full of dead bodies. And when they reach the entrance of the cave, they see how the rapid flow of water is still going inside the cave. And by this time, all the children's families had been alerted. They had also reached this cave, and all the parents were still thinking that somehow their children's lives would be saved. And at the same time, the first group of the rescue team goes inside the cave. And as soon as they go inside, they are shocked to see a lot of floating bodies. And they already get the bodies of 4 children and 2 counselors. But the rescue team still had a problem that where did the rest of the children go? And these people try to somehow go ahead and find the children, but their first mission fails. After this, the whole group comes out of the cave, and the second rescue team was also called, because the water flowing inside the cave was no less than a death trap. The second team goes inside, and the search operation goes on for many hours. And so far, the rescue team had also accepted that these children will not be found now. And then suddenly they see 3 more bodies floating. And still a lot of parents were waiting for the news about their children. And everyone was praying that the rest of the children would be found alive. But nothing like this was going to happen in the future. And by this time, about 18 hours had passed, the search operation had started, and there was no hope of finding anyone else. But suddenly a big miracle happens. And inside the cave, at a distance of 1,000 feet, they find a child who was shivering in the cold, was nervous and hungry, and was traveling with hypothermia. Then this child is taken to the hospital by helicopter. And then it turns out that the name of this child is Gary. And after being saved, Gary tells in the interview that he was very scared to see the bodies. But apart from saving his life, he had nothing left. And after hanging with a stone for many hours, he was moving forward. After which the rescue team finds him. Just like Gary, a child gets trapped in a chimney for 23 days.